These are my apple trees. That's a Dorset Golden on the left and an apple tree on the right. They're both starting to set fruit. I have them growing in containers for now. Eventually, I plan to put them in the ground. The Dorset Golden is growing in a 15-gallon container that it came with when it was purchased from a local nursery back in June of 2019. According to a nursery employee, the tree was estimated to be about 3 years old when it was purchased. The Anna apple tree is growing in a slightly smaller pot. It was purchased in November of 2017. It came in a 5-gallon container and was subsequently transplanted to the container you see here in January of 2019. It will grow in zones 5 through 10 and has a low trill requirement of only 200 hours. It's self-pollinating, but will do better if pollinated by the golden Dorset apple tree. About a month after purchasing the Anna apple tree, it began to develop buds. It eventually set a small amount of fruit, which was harvested in May. All of the fruit harvested were small but very tasty. Then in July of 2018, it flowered once again. By October, I began to harvest some of the apples. On the second harvest, I was able to get about 10 apples off the tree, which was a slightly larger crop than the first harvest, which only rendered about 5 apples. In January of 2019, the tree began to bud again. I decided to transplant it to the slightly larger pot, which it's in now. By late February, the tree was in full bloom. In early March, the tree was still in bloom, but I noticed that there was hardly any bee activity. During this time of the year, the temperature is still a bit too cold for the bees, so I decided to hand pollinate the flowers with a paintbrush. By late June, the fruit had grown to about the size of an egg. The color of the apples was starting to come in. The tree initially started to set about 25 apples, but only about 8 managed to reach maturity. The harvest was disappointing. Not only was it a small harvest, but the size of the apples were also on the small side, not much bigger than what you see here. In early August, the tree began to bud again. By early October, a few flowers were in bloom. Here it is in November. In late January, the tree was still flowering and had several buds yet to open. Here it is in early February with a few more flowers in bloom. And here it is a few days later. It seemed to have a few more buds and flowers than previous years. I was still not getting a lot of bee activity, so I decided to spray the flowers with a mixture of honey and water, 1 part honey to 3 parts water. I did this for the next several days, spraying the flowers every other day. This is the 4th time this tree has set fruit. I'm hoping this season will be better than previous years and that it will produce a bigger crop with a larger size apples. As far as the taste goes, I can't complain. The fruit off this tree has consistently been really tasty. Here it is in early March. The fruit is about the size of a grape. It still has a few flowers in bloom and some buds yet to flower. The apples should be ready for harvest sometime around July, give or take a month or so. That white you see on the trunk is on some of the branches is a hydrated horticulture lime. I use that to whitewash the tree in order to give it some protection from the sun. I plan on putting these trees in the ground in an area of my yard that will get more sun than what they're presently getting. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference with or without the whitewash, but these trees are still a bit young, so I'm doing it more just for peace of mind. The pieces of wood you see in between the branches are being used to train the branches to be more horizontal. Once the tree is planted in the ground, I plan to espalier it. I'm just trying to get it ready for that. Okay, that's it for the Anna apple. The Dorset Golden apple tree was purchased from a local nursery in June of 2019. It was estimated to be about 3 years old. This is also a very low chill variety, only requires about 100 chill hours. It's self-pollinating, but it is a good pollinator for the Anna apple tree as well. When this tree was purchased, it already had about 20 apples starting to set. By July, I began to harvest some of the apples. They were good size, bigger than any of the Anna apples I had harvested before. The taste on the Dorset Golden apple was good, but for me, the Anna apple had a better flavor. The Anna apple, in comparison to the Golden Dorset, has a sweeter taste. I did enjoy the Golden Dorset, but I prefer the Anna apple over the Dorset. In early December, the Golden Dorset began to form buds. Here's a few more close-up shots. And here it is in late January. By early February, most of the buds were in bloom. The tree was not getting much bee activity, so I decided to spray just as I had done with the Anna apple. Here it is in late February. As you can see, the bees do like the honey water mixture. Before spraying this tree, it hardly had any bee activity, so the honey water mixture does work. Here it is in early March, setting a good amount of fruit. It appears to be setting a larger crop than the Anna apple tree. We'll see in a few months from now just how many apples reach maturity. My guess is that the Dorset will have both a bigger harvest and larger apples than the Anna. However, I'm fairly sure the Anna will beat out the Dorset when it comes to taste. We'll see what happens in a few months from now. I'll be sure to post a follow-up video once I start to harvest them. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button below. And if you'd like to follow along on all that is going on in my backyard orchard, hit the subscribe button. As always, grow your own, and thank you for watching.